So the sleepwalking scene is not just presenting us a broken woman, it's also presenting us a shattering of relevance. Hello and welcome back to Nibblepop. We are doing a thorough textual reading of Macbeth and we have reached the final act, the fifth act. In this video, we will be looking at the first scene of the fifth act, which is popularly called the sleepwalking scene. Stay with me till the end of this video because this is going to be the most important scene in this whole play to understand the character of Lady Macbeth. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so right now. This is Monami Mukherjee. Welcome once again. Within the scheme of Aristotelian concept of tragedy, the fifth act brings us to the resolution of a play. When the loose ends are all tied up and we get to a point where we understand how tragedy is manifested. Now there are two principal characters in the play Macbeth, although it is named after the male protagonist. Both Macbeth and Lady Macbeth happen to be quite important characters in the play. So, the fifth act does not only tell us what happens to Macbeth, the central heroic figure, but also what happens to Lady Macbeth. After the banquet scene, we haven't heard or seen her on stage, and this is going to be the last time we're going to see her. And Shakespeare will make sure we remember everything she says and does on stage in the first scene of the fifth act. Now the scene opens with a doctor and a maid, a gentlewoman, and they have a conversation regarding what's going on with Lady Macbeth. Now while Macbeth is away thinking and planning about the revolting barons and noblemen to solidify his position, Lady Macbeth is left all alone. And what is going on with her at the moment is really, really terrible. Let's look at the conversation between the doctor and the gentlewoman first. I have 2 nights watched with you, but can perceive no truth in your report. When was it she last walked? So something is going on with Lady Macbeth, which the gentlewoman had reported to the doctor. But the doctor hasn't seen it yet with his own eyes. Since His Majesty went into the field, I have seen her rise from her bed, throw her nightgown upon her, unlock her closet, take forth paper, fold it, write upon it, read it, afterwards seal it, and again return to bed. Yet all this while in most fast sleep. Lady Macbeth is sleepwalking. She is showing a curious case of somnambulism where the diseased person walks about in their sleep without even being conscious about what they are doing. Now, although psychiatry in those days was not an advanced science or a researched area, the doctor or the physician still has some idea that this is all somehow related to what's happening inside her mind. A great perturbation in nature to receive at once the benefit of sleep and do the effects of watching. Now he says that sleepwalking is a condition in which you are both asleep and awake. In this slumbery agitation, but see, when we are asleep, we are usually in a peaceful position, our minds are at rest, but when you are sleepwalking, then you are deprived of that peace, of that rest. So it is an agitated state. In this slumbery agitation, besides her walking and other actual performances, what at any time have you heard her say? So the doctor wants specifics here. What exactly is she doing and saying? That's her, which I will not report after her. So she is saying things that the gentlewoman doesn't want to disclose, maybe something very incriminating, something really very secretive, and she understands that. You may to me, and it's most meet you should. Now the doctor says that, look, I'm a physician, you shouldn't hide things from me. Neither to you nor anyone having to witness to confirm my speech. See, unless I have a witness, I cannot give you the details of her words. And right then, when the audience's expectation is aroused, Lady Macbeth enters the stage. Enter Lady Macbeth with a taper. Taper is kind of a lamp. It's like candle. Lo you, here she comes. Now they are speaking in a soft way so that she can't hear. This is her very guise. So this is how she always comes in. And upon my life fast asleep. Observe her. Stand close. So now the gentlewoman wants the doctor to see for himself what's going on with Lady Macbeth. How came she by that light? Why is she carrying a light with her? Why, it stood by her. She has light by her continually. It's her command. Lady Macbeth, who had courted darkness, invited night once upon a time, is now seeking the comfort of light. She cannot stand darkness. You see, her eyes are open. Aye, but their senses shut. So maybe she is walking about with eyes wide open, but she cannot see because she is technically asleep. What is it she does now? Look how she rubs her hands. Now, while the doctor and the gentlewoman are observing Lady Macbeth, she is rubbing her palms as if she is trying to wash off something. It is an accustomed action with her to seem thus washing her hands. I have known her continue in this a quarter of an hour. So she goes on doing this for a pretty long time. And then suddenly we hear her voice. Yet here's a spot. So she is trying to get rid of a spot. What spot? Hark, she speaks. I will set down what comes from her to satisfy my remembrance the more strongly. So the doctor decides to note down everything that she is saying. Lady Macbeth, oblivious to who is around her. Oblivious means she doesn't have the faintest idea. And she goes on saying, out, damned spot, out, I say. So she is talking to her hand. And she imagines a spot there. 1, 2. Why then? It's time to do it. Hell is murky. Fie, my lord, fie, a soldier and a feared. What need we fear, who knows it, when none can call our part to account? Yet who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him? So she is looking at her hands, thinking that they are filled with spots of blood. Whose blood? Duncan's blood. So she is not now in the present moment. She is teleported to some distant past, or not so distant past, when she and her husband had joined hands to execute Duncan, to assassinate Duncan. Look at the words here. 1, 2. What is she talking about? The bells, or that signal which she was to give for Macbeth to rouse from his stupor and kill the king. And then the words which she used to encourage him. Why then? It's time to do it. Fie, my lord, fie, a soldier and a feared. Why is she talking about that night now? And then she feels that Duncan has so much blood in him that she can't get rid of it, even now. And do you remember what she had told Macbeth back then in that dreadful night? A little water clears us of this deed. A little water. The doctor is pretty curious about what is this all about? Because they have their suspicions about Duncan's death, about Macbeth's rise to power. But this is like an open confession which they are hearing. And then something strange again. The Thane of Fife had a wife. Where is she now? What? Will these hands never be clean? No more of that, my lord, no more of that. You mar all with this starting. She is jumping from scene to scene. She's talking about the Thane of Fife, Macduff's wife. And we know that Macbeth had not consulted Lady Macbeth on the butchering of Macduff's family. We know that right from the moment that Macbeth decided to kill Banquo and Fleance, Lady Macbeth and Macbeth had gone apart from each other. They have drifted apart. But Lady Macbeth knows what must have happened. She senses that something wrong must have happened to Lady Macduff. And she has no one to talk to about this. Because Macbeth had told her earlier to be innocent of the knowledge, dearest Chuck, till she applauds the deed. So that's a signal forbidding her to reach out to him. And this line, you mar all with this starting. This is the banquet scene. So she has questions about events in which she has no role to play. And then she's talking about times when she had a lot of control over Macbeth. So she is switching between these moments of alienation, being away from Macbeth, and union when she was one with him. When she had her authority, or she thought she had. Go to, you have known what you should not. The doctor is not very comfortable with the knowledge he has now, because he knows that these kinds of information can only make him land in trouble. She has spoke what she should not, I'm sure of that. Heaven knows what she has known. Here is the smell of the blood still. All the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hat. Oh, oh, oh. And she is so filled with despair here. Arabia was famous for its exquisite perfumes, fragrances, that no matter how much Arabian perfume, fragrance she uses, she cannot get rid of that stench of blood from her hands. And she is still echoing, even when she is so very away from her husband, emotionally, psychologically, she is still echoing what her husband had said, that all the great oceans of this world could not wash away the blood from his hand. It is as if Lady Macbeth's memory is stuck in that night, and she is living and reliving that night, all through its horror, all through its darkness. What a sigh is there! The heart is sorely charged. I would not have such a heart in my bosom for the dignity of the whole body. Lady Macbeth has a dignified body, but the gentlewoman will not bargain with her heart, even if she gets a body like Lady Macbeth's. Well, pray God it be, sir. This disease is beyond my practice. And now the doctor realizes that this has gone too far. She is beyond help. Yet I have known those which have walked in their sleep, who have died holily in their beds. The doctor is quite experienced, and he knows that somnambulism or sleepwalking is not always associated with a guilty mind. So he cannot conclude that Lady Macbeth is a criminal-minded woman just because she sleepwalks. But what he hears is pretty incriminating. Wash your hands. Put on your nightgown. Look not so pale. I tell you yet again, Banquo is buried. He cannot come out on his grave. Even so, now the doctor realizes that it's not just about one murder but a series of them. To bed, to bed. There's knocking at the gate. Come, 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 give me your hand. What's done cannot be undone. To bed, to bed, to bed. She leaves. Will she go now to bed? Directly. Foul whisperings are abroad. The doctor is quite aware of the political scenario of his times. There are rumors all around. Unnatural deeds do breed unnatural troubles. So the kind of trouble which Lady Macbeth is facing now is an unnatural trouble. Trouble is not the natural course of somebody's mind that she is suffering through. Infected minds to their deaf pillows will discharge their secrets. The main problem with guilt is that you cannot share it easily with others. And when somebody's mind is infected with guilt, then they can only speak to their pillows, silent pillows. More needs she the divine than the physician, a divine who will cure her feeling of guilt, because she is not troubled by any physical ailment or physical disease. She is troubled by the compunctious visitings of nature. She had prayed to the agents of darkness to stop up the access to pity, to turn her milk into gall. And now that prayer has become her curse. God, God, forgive us all. Look after her. Remove from her the means of all annoyance. Don't let her feel irritated by anything. And still keep eyes upon her. So, good night. My mind she has mated and amazed by sight. I think, but dare not speak. The doctor has kind of given up hope, and he knows that she is not going to respond to any kind of medication at all. Good night, good doctor. Now this whole scene is created by Shakespeare's imagination. There is no reference in his source Holinshed about any kind of sleepwalking or somnambulism or how Lady Macbeth died or suffered. This is what Shakespeare creates. And why does he do this? Because as I said in the very beginning, that resolution is not just about resolution of the male central figure of this play. It is also about what happens to his partner of greatness. If we look at the lines that Lady Macbeth is speaking out, we will realize that she is trying to hold on to those moments when she could be a participant, when she could be together with her husband. Many people have said that she's feeling guilty, she's regretting. But somehow I feel there's another angle to it, another way of looking at her words. She is regretting that night, yes, but she is not regretting the companionship. She's longing for it. So it's a strange kind of emotion that she's going through. She's dreading a moment, and then she is somehow only thinking about that moment. Because that moment had made her feel powerful. That moment had made her feel relevant. And when you feel relevant, you don't think about crime, you don't think about guilt, you don't think about consequences. In Holinshed's account, there is no record of what Shakespeare does in this scene. That's very natural, because historiography has always deprived women of their voices. We don't find records, domestic records, these exchanges, which possibly had a more significant influence on history than is otherwise thought. It is believed that women had not contributed to history, so they are absent in history. So right when history fails, literature gives us what we lack. And why does historiography, the writing of history, not talk about women much? Because women's voices are often suppressed. And when you suppress what you want to express for a long time, it turns into a repression. It is explained beautifully by Sigmund Freud and later by his follower Lacan. Looking at Lady Macbeth in this crucial juncture, we can detect memories that she has repressed because they were not able to communicate to each other. And in any healthy mind, you need an outlet. All through her waking hours, she is deprived of the company of the one man who knows everything about her. All through her waking hours, she is denied the freedom to express herself. She is silenced when she is awake, and therefore she needs to speak when she is not awake. In the Freudian concept of the unconscious, we have these layers, the id, the ego, the superego, and so on. The superego is supposed to be a kind of guiding principles in which you judge yourself. So that's like the God part of your consciousness. And there is this ego, which is like the human element in you, something which people see in you openly, something which you express when you are awake and conscious. That is the ego part. And there is this id part, id, and that is the devil element in you, where you hide all your secret desires, all your repressed memories, all your guilty feelings, which you cannot even think about when you are consciously awake and when you're sleeping. When that monitor of that guiding superego relaxes, it is then that things emerge from that innermost core of id. And therefore, in dreams, in nightmares, in sleeping moments, we often come face to face with our worst nightmares. And when that control system destabilizes, breaks down, then you have Lady Macbeth walking unconscious and at the same time confronting her worst nightmares of memories. But those same memories are reserved somewhere in her as moments of power, as moments of relevance. So the sleepwalking scene is not just presenting us a broken woman, it's also presenting us a shattering of relevance. It is presenting us darkness visible. If you have read Milton's Paradise Lost, or if you plan to, or if you eventually will, you will see that Milton had described hell with the word darkness visible. This candle she is holding by her, this taper, this light, this is only making the darkness around her more black. And she is saying hell is murky. This is the hell which we have witnessed when we saw that drunken porter. This is the hell which we will be seeing when we will read Paradise Lost. The hell which is not just a physical reality but a psychological one. And this is the everlasting bonfire. And Lady Macbeth gets to experience hell even when she is alive. And that's the saddest part of it. All she wanted was a little water to clear her of her deeds. Little did she know that the oceans of the world could not provide her with enough. The blood stains are so planted in her psyche that she cannot get rid of them. There are moments in this play when we hated her. We had thought she is like the fourth witch, a calculating criminal. But this is not how a calculating criminal ends up. She never had it in her to be the serial killer that her job description came with, or her self-imposed duty to supply Macbeth with his necessary motivation. She didn't have it in her. That's why she had prayed to these darker powers. Somehow, this whole idea of sleepwalking, having a light by your side, somehow this whole idea of speaking to yourself, oblivious of who is there to witness what you are saying. This whole idea is so charged with emotional elements that one cannot but feel moved by the scene. We might feel that serves her right. This is how it should have been. But in that judgmental moment, in that moment of passing judgment, somewhere deep down, ask yourself this question: did she truly deserve hell more than Macbeth? Sometimes crime and punishment, they are not just about poetic justice. And in Shakespeare, you do have poetic justice. This might look like poetic justice. But one cannot deny the pathos of the scene. One cannot celebrate, feel happy and jovial about the fact that this lady goes mad, because this is madness. What is madness if not forgetting who you are, where you are? Lady Macbeth has reached the point where she is hallucinating, just like her husband was. But unlike her husband, who had his wife to lean on to, she has no one and nowhere to be. Within the scheme of things, the only respite for her, the only rest for her could be the darkness of death. And this is how Shakespeare brings about the resolution. That eventually, when we will hear that she has died, we would look at it as a resolution for her troubled mind. This scene is a disturbing one and will be followed by a quick succession of short little scenes, which I will be covering at one go in the next video. And then we will go on to the final scene to reach the very end of this play. It was wonderful to have you with me in this long journey of Macbeth. I'm really grateful for all the love and support and really look forward to your encouragement in future. This is Monami Mukherjee signing off. Be there on my next video too with me. Till then, stay happy, stay safe. Bye-bye.